Victorian England, 1837 to 1901, saw a great deal of change brought about by growing cities, population growth, and the Industrial Revolution. Particularly in places like London, these events had contributed to an increase in crime, overcrowding, and economic inequalities. There was a clear gap in society then between the wealthy upper class and the working class, with many of the latter turning to petty crime as a means of survival. Pickpocketing, burglary, and theft had all risen dramatically in the metropolitan settings. Sensationalist newspapers of the era also added to public fears, exposing crime waves by bringing stories of violent crimes, such as murder, to the public's attention. Law enforcement was inadequate before the Victorian era and frequently depended on amateur parish constables or watchmen. Just before Queen Victoria's reign in 1829, Home Secretary Sir Robert Peel established the Metropolitan Police Force, hence the nickname Bobbies, marking a significant advancement in crime prevention. These officers' job was to patrol the streets. They stood out from the red-coated troops because of their unique blue uniforms, which symbolized authority. The public was initially skeptical of this new army, believing they would be used by the government as an oppressive force. But when London's crime rate began to decrease, the Bobbies gained credibility and developed into an essential part of the legal system. They laid the groundwork for contemporary law enforcement by assisting with crime investigations, gathering evidence, and suspicious arrests. Break-ins were common in the crowded slums, with thieves targeting homes and businesses alike. While they did occur, murders, attacks, and domestic abuse were less common than crimes involving property. But some murders, such as the Jack the Ripper crimes in the late 1880s, were so brutal that they frightened the public and attracted media attention. Fraud and forgery were common as well, particularly as banks and commerce grew. Severe penalties were pretty much the norm in Victorian England, even for the smallest of crimes. This was part of the idea that criminal activity could have been avoided by harsh penalties. Frequently included sentences were executions that took place in public until the middle of the 1800s, drawing large audiences. Hanging was the standard punishment for crimes like treason, murder, and arson. But eventually, this technique made its way inside prisons and behind closed doors. Transport to Australia or other prison colonies was one of the most severe penalties. Criminals, who were frequently found guilty of stealing, would be transferred abroad to serve their sentences in brutal conditions, sometimes for as long as 14 years. By the 1850s, this practice had stopped as the colonies started to reject transported convicts. Prisons were filthy, disease-ridden environments. The objective was to break the offender's spirit by means of hard labor, isolation, and silence. Well-known Victorian jails like Pentonville and Newgate in London came to take on this strict legal system. Nevertheless, prior to later improvements, jails themselves were disorganized and overcrowded. Men and women alike frequently received public floggings and whippings as a form of humiliation and punishment. Mary Jane Kelly, the last known victim of Jack the Ripper, was killed on November 9, 1888, making her case the most captivating and infamous of all time. Even though the story has been sensationalized in many ways, there are certain facts that are frequently overlooked or misrepresented, but give the story more depth and debunk common assumptions. The brutality of Mary Jane Kelly's murder is well known, but the background and circumstances of her life are rarely discussed, which invites the question of what exactly happened. Given that Kelly was killed in her room at 13 Miller's Court, the murderer had far more time and privacy than he did with the other famous victims who were killed elsewhere. The traditional image of Jack the Ripper as a killer who attacked quickly in public areas before disappearing into the night is made more difficult by the isolated location. The less sensationalized but more accurate reality of life in Whitechapel at the time was further demonstrated by Kelly's case. Many glorify her image by focusing on her youth and beauty, yet her life was a tragic reflect of Victorian London's poverty, vulnerability, and governmental neglect. Although it is often overlooked, she had already declared her intention to leave the prostitute life behind. Kelly's death serves as a terrible image of the hopelessness many of those she knew experienced. It is an irony that is frequently overlooked in her story. Kelly had reportedly told friends she was saving money to escape Whitechapel. The popular story portrays the Ripper's murders as being meticulously planned, yet Kelly's murder was so chaotic that several investigators were not sure if it actually matched the pattern. Because of how brutal the attack was, some people speculated that the Ripper might not have followed a set routine, but rather may have acted out of excessive fury. Furthermore, numerous witnesses claimed to have seen Kelly alive with a man hours after it was thought she had been murdered, muddying the storyline that the Ripper was an enigmatic figure lurking in the fog. The final point is that a lot of theories ignore the possibility that Kelly's murder wasn't carried out by the same person who killed the other victims as well. Some historians argue that Kelly's death showed signs of personal animosity rather than the detached attitude associated with Jack the Ripper's earlier crimes. This raises the question of whether Kelly's murder defined the end of the Ripper's reign of terror, or if another murderer applied the fear in Whitechapel to cover up a different crime. These small details provide a more sobering, if not more grounded, view of the case, drawing less attention to the eerie myth of Jack the Ripper and more to the harsh facts of life and death in Victorian London. Thank you to everyone who stayed with us until the end. Your curiosity and commitment to uncovering the real history behind these stories mean a lot. There's still so much more to delve into, so stay tuned. More intriguing discoveries and myth-busting content are coming your way. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and click the notification bell so you never miss an update. All your comments are read and answered. Thank you for watching. Until next time.